Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, or whenever it is that you're tuning in to today's episode. I'm Jonathan Bengal, host of Naked Tax Talk Babies, where we bear down to the naked truth about who we are, our business lives, and of course our monetary lives. Because what I know to be true is that when we improve upon the self, the business, which is a reflection of who we are, also improves, and the money, honeys, also improves, and in fact goes up. And when you work with someone like myself, a certified tax coach and planner, we see the taxes go down. I'm always asked, Jonathan, why do you have to show up on your show naked? Well, the truth is naked to me equals the ability to foster courage. It's the same sensation that we feel when we get an unexpected IRS letter in the mail. It's the same feeling that we get when someone asks us, what's your profit? So being naked is our ability to tap into that courage, to step into it, to own it, and to accept it, and to really allow ourselves to be who we were born to be. I'm joined today by an amazing special guest. Her name is I'm going to mess up her name already, Jacqueline, and she is going to talk to us about the power of positioning yourself on LinkedIn and other social media platforms so that when people take that few seconds to look at who you are, they know quickly, without haste, who you are all about and who you serve and what you bring to the table. I've personally worked with her, so I know what she's capable of, and I'm super excited to have her here as a guest. And I plan on asking her a whole bunch of questions, and she has two very interesting tax questions that she wants to ask me as well. So without much further ado, welcome, Jackie, to Naked Tax Talk.
Thank you, Jonathan. You're such a sweetheart. I love being here.
Thank you so much. Tell us a little about who you are and what do you do?
Well, when people ask me that, the most logical one is to just tell them my mantra. It kind of accomplishes the whole thing at one time. My age justifies my wisdom. My developed clarity teaches the excitement of awareness and ignites the spark of action and change. So I guess you might call me a change agent, though, however, what I really love and passionate about is to be that catalyst for spontaneous combustion, that ability to have people come through me to each other in collaboration to make brand new profits and new partnerships that will explode where they're going together. So that kind of is who I am, and I have found the avenue for me at this point. The best one is LinkedIn, because there's 737 million people on LinkedIn.
Wow. 731 million people on LinkedIn.
756 million. I got it wrong.
Well, it's okay. I'll put it down again. 756 million. That's an incredible amount of people that are on LinkedIn. So someone like myself, who I really kind of ended up using Facebook first, how do we migrate from, or how do you help us to migrate from the Facebook world into the LinkedIn world, which I think most of us identify as mainly business to business?
Yeah, it does depend on who you are and where you're going and what you want to accomplish. If your business is targeting the family and women, that type of a thing, probably better to stay off in Facebook. If you are targeting other businesses, now that's a different story. You're not going to typically find them with any large amount in Facebook. And what tends to happen is that people get so overpowered by the 756 million that it's like, are you kidding? I got to learn this all over again. And what the heck is the bonus? So that's what I do, is I bring that clearly and in a focused way to get them to be able to play in that environment. I mean, I can answer this in one other question too, with one other way. In other words, I was starting my business in '86. And when I was starting it, I thought, I don't want to talk to people. I got to go out and grovel for food. I don't want to grovel for food. Who's going to buy it? I mean, that doesn't make sense. And I was sitting in the backyard in a spa looking up in the sky, and I noticed there was an airplane up there. And I said, you know, if anything happened to that airplane, besides being astonished that it even got up there, what if anything ever happened to that airplane, some 200 people's lives would be affected. Then I thought, that's wrong. Each one of them knows 600. Mr. Naked Talk, what are the averages and the numbers there? More than you can even imagine. So I thought, you know, it's worth it to talk to one person. Because if you do it right, and their sphere of influence is the same as yours, your target audience is the same, wow, they're going to say you're remarkable. And it just happens to be your prospects they're talking to. So you become word of mouth.
And that's interesting you said that, because the other day I was at another group, and I talked about how we can use networking as a form of marketing. And I never really associated networking with marketing, right? Like, I just thought I was just interacting with people to let them know what I do, but that's what marketing is, right? It's letting people know. In fact, in my book, The ABCs of Deductions, under the letter A stands for advertising and marketing. And I say, Uncle Sam realizes that if you don't preach, let people know that you exist, if you don't let them see you and hear you, how are they supposed to know that you're in business and that you have something to offer? Which is why he encourages us to get on these platforms, for example, to spread our word. It's interesting because networking is so powerful. You're right. I can refer you, and I know then you're going to refer others, and it's just it's a huge chain. Do you remember the first time when you had your first client and then the first referral that came out of that?
Whoa, that's heavy. Well, since I started networking groups in the Bay Area in California, that probably is when it happened. And eventually the group I started, which is still doing it today, we had everyone in the group in a domino effect. So the realtor had to have printing materials, and he had to have them shipped, and they had to have the houses cleaned, and it had to have landscaping, and it went through the whole thing. And I couldn't tell you however many people were in the group, but that's the power of working in collaboration with each other. And just yesterday, and it was totally a miracle. I won't go into the long of it. I'll go into the short of it. Actually, the woman I introduced you to that you haven't talked to yet was part of this formula.
Oh, wow.
And the two women, one was in the, it's a story that you don't want to hear. It's so funny, but it would take up the whole hour. Anyhow, the one woman that I wanted you to meet was in a room with another woman and I online talking on a Zoom call. And what came from that was the interaction with someone in Cambodia.
Oh, wow.
And my interaction in Cambodia, and I mentor in 10 countries. That's not a real big deal, except that the Cambodian fellow has a total beautiful template created for developing entrepreneurs, especially women in Cambodia, through the villages and all different aspects. But he was missing possibly some curriculum to be able to teach them the cottage industries. Mm-hmm. So I came to him, found that out, and gave him a fellow with planetstartup.org, org account, I can't remember which. So that came from that little meeting that I had that will literally change Cambodia and definitely many countries in the world from that one interaction.
It's the power of connection.
It's the power of paying attention.
And that too.
It's the excitement of awareness is what it is. How many miracles pass us by absolutely every day because you're not paying attention? Ooh. And I've always said the opposite of love is complacency. It's not hate. It's complacency, because when you decide that life is okay the way it is, man, when we go routine, we don't pay any attention, you lose it. You really
It's so
lose it.
easy.
It's so easy to do that. And gifts from God are extended based upon my acknowledgement of them. So it's
Yes.
all about the excitement of awareness and paying attention to the miracles. Who knows how many have passed you by today because you didn't pay attention.
It makes perfect sense. I mean, it's so true, right? Because I always say this all the time. In fact, I learned this by being a Buddhist, and that is that we're constantly walking through this thing called the fog of ignorance. And we're just moving through, right? Just moving through. And it takes people, oftentimes, Buddhas, so we could say God, other spiritual, you, me, whatever, that come into our lives and begins to shine a little bit of that light, right? That starts to remove that fog of ignorance. And I say, this is the moment. This is the moment. Like, where we now have human choice, because now we've been aware. And like you said, from awareness, we now have to apply the mind of mindfulness. So it's that connection of like experiences, or making sure, like, oh yeah, did I reach out? Did I send those emails? Which sometimes life gets in the way. I digress. But are we doing those steps to follow through? We hear this all the time, right? Marketing. Money's in the follow-up. Money's in the follow-up, right? It's interesting you say that, because it's so true.
Yeah.
Awareness, mindfulness, then comes concentration, right? We're making it, the effort, putting in the work, because people think it just happens, but it doesn't. You have to actually work and put forth the effort in order to realize that dream. And the dream is to be happy. And how do we do that? By being aware that someone has an opportunity for us to connect.
Yeah. And just when I go into a conversation on Zoom, I bring my database in my brain. That's my whole purpose there, is to listen and to try to figure out who's on the same path. And as far as I'm concerned, no one competes unless you're both selling jewelry or something just alike. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's always some way to enhance, because everyone has different experiences, and so you can't be the same in any way, shape, or form, except maybe a man, maybe a woman. But other than that, everything else differs. So there's always a way to work together.
Yes.
I've kind of put that in a 5 C's, which is interesting. The 5 C's. The first one is commonalities. You cannot build a relationship without commonalities. It just won't work. There has to be something in common. And the second is to communicate those commonalities. But between the two of those areas is the art of listening. The art of listening. So you're listening for commonalities, but it doesn't mean that you're going to respond by what is common. What I say about that is, let's say I got married in Tahoe, okay? And someone else may think of Tahoe where they lost their brother that drowned. So my response and feeling about Tahoe is different from theirs. Yes. So it is a commonality, but I have to kind of table it until I find out where that's going to fit into the picture in a positive way. So you have commonalities, you have communicating that, you have committing to work together, and that's the hard one, because people don't commit to much of anything. I'm sure you know that, Jonathan.
Oh, man.
And yeah, but when you realize one person knows 600, give me a break. It's worth the effort. And then you contribute to that relationship. And when you do all of that with an open mind, without judgment, keeping your expertise, you get what I call collaboration. And that's the glow, the guided love of wholeness, when all of that works. And it's in every relationship that you can possibly have, especially in business.
I freaking love that. Like, I really do. Like the 5 C's.
Yeah.
I'm a talker. I'm a gabber, so I have my show, right? My mother gave me the tongue to speak.
Yeah.
But I love it, because I actually, as you were telling me, like I was like, this is gold, what you're sharing with me. Awareness. And so I went, Ooh, I'm going to type that out for my viewers. And so in the comments, they're all going to see. I love that. The 5 C's, commonality. And I love that because then you kind of pump the brakes. I loved your analogy you used, right? Which is exactly what you said. My experience may be very different from their experience, but I loved is that you said, so therefore I pay attention even more, less the leaning in, the active listening. And then, like you said, then finding the commonality of the positivity inside of that to communicate that, which I then put in parentheses between them is the art of listening. Freaking genius. And then, of course, I love that committing to working together because you're absolutely right. It's you do. This is where you're one of your superpowers, which I absolutely freaking love, is you go, oh yeah, you need to work with this person. You need to work with this person. You need to work with this person. And you kind of bring the two souls together, and then do they mesh, right? It's up to us to determine that, to commit to that. And I would say you're absolutely right. That is probably the most difficult part in the dance, is kind of making that happen. And what's interesting, because you also say then finally is the ability to contribute to the relationship. And I like that, right? Because we both know that in a partnership, that's what this is about. It's about reciprocity. It's about equality. It's about I get and you get. We win and we win, because we both know when only one wins, it creates a void, creates desperation. It creates all this other crap that we go through, both personally, business, money, right? Like this. And I love that, because you're saying, no, the two are going to go like this together. And then finally you say the collaboration, which all of a sudden when you said that, I thought, that makes perfect sense. Like if I do a webinar as a tax dude, I should be bringing in the bookkeepers, right? I should be bringing in the accountants. And that's the collaboration. But you know what that takes? The ability to remove the fear that they're not going to take away my money.
Absolutely.
Right? That there's plenty of it to be shared.
Yeah. And another thing too, the 5 C's are how I look at LinkedIn. I've broken them down into 5 steps. The first step is commonalities, and that's a matter of making sure that your profile is such that people know exactly who your target audience is, who your alliances are, the results they're going to get from working with you, and the actions that they should take. So that's in the profile. So you need to juice that up so that it is you. So that's the commonality. So they have something to work with. And then using your commonalities by looking at someone else's, your target alliance that you've decided you have, your target alliance, which is the same target as you. And that's a matter of going in there and just putting in the URL who you want. You want coaches in Arizona. You'll get millions. Well, maybe not, but at least thousands. And then you need to communicate with them to be able to find the commonalities and to say, I'm not selling to you. I am building a collaboration. And then you get them on Calendly or some way to commit to work together in a Zoom call. And then you each contribute by promoting each other in LinkedIn or any other social media until you get collaboration. And that's whatever comes up in a webinar. It comes up in LinkedIn when you promote each other. I actually had a talk with a woman that does a web, online networking, and she says, I think it was the Global Gal. I'm not sure if that was it or not. No, it was at Gaskins. Anyhow, she put on LinkedIn this nice little thing that says, these are the people that I work with. These are my referral networks. And we just had a one-on-one. So she's got my big face there and says, this is the fun we had, and I'm going, cool. You did a little form for it and you just put it right in LinkedIn who your one-on-one was. How cool is that? That's collaboration with using the 5 C's.
I love that. In fact, again, more time, hope you don't mind. I was like taking your notes, pushed them out because I'm like, this is some good golden nuggets. So what would you say is like when you're kind of zooming through LinkedIn, so to speak, what would be some things that you notice that could be a quote unquote easy fix that people could do to improve their profile
Oh, profile itself?
or their languaging in their profile?
Languaging in their profile. Spending 3 paragraphs on your past history and all the mountains you moved and the millions you made for others. I don't care about. I really don't. I don't want you to go on forever. I need credibility, but I'm more interested in your thoughts and what you think about life. And then your target audience, make it real clear who it is that you want to work with. So all of these are bullet points underneath target audience, the alliances, and I do it to the third person. In other words, Jonathan, blah, 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 Jonathan this, and we did that. And then it goes down to alliances. So when they look at it in little bullets, they say, got that. And if I want to align with this woman, I pay attention to the commonalities. I know that they're working with these people. I know they want these people. So already you've stacked the deck on how to speak to me. And you can see exactly what's happening. And the other thing is with a profile is don't be afraid to put your contact information. Aren't you there for that? Isn't that what you want? I mean, you're not going to put down your social security number or the map of where to find you. But the point is they should be able to get a hold of you. So that's just a couple things.
That is. So how long have you, you mentioned this, we're going back a long time, but when did you start kind of specializing in the LinkedIn field and helping entrepreneurs like myself to really fine tune that?
It might be if I stretch it 2 years. Because before I was coaching people on doing the same thing in their database. So we'd look at their database and I would say, bring out 3 people who are targeting the same audience. And they'll go, what? And I said, yeah, look at them. Do you know that information about them? Well, kind of, sort of. They bought the widget, but I didn't really pay attention. Pay attention. That's the way you sort. And so I was saying, guess what? They could be alliances besides the guy that bought the widget. I never thought of that. Well, it didn't take too long before people told me their database was in the shoebox, or it was in a bag, or it was in the drawer on the bottom left. It's not going to do me any good. Give me a break. So I thought, LinkedIn, that already has the database and they're all sorted, and you can go ahead and sort any which way you can imagine out of about 10 fields. So why go to your own database? I mean, it's nice. If you pay attention, you get even more benefit because they know you and they think you're great.
That makes sense. So you actually have, do you have, you work with me. So do you have a system or a method that you'd say, come and enter Jackie's world? How do we enter your world?
Well, it starts with a clarity from chaos session.
Okay.
And that's what I call it when we sit down, just like you and I did, and I find out who your target audience is, who your alliances could be, and I fill in the blanks if you don't have it. And then what is your real service? That has to be in there too. I didn't emphasize that much. But what is your real service? What are you giving them? And what do they expect to get from it? I would also ask you, what's your pain point? What is your challenge? What is it that's not working for you and that you need to fix? So at that point, I'm trying to see if LinkedIn will help you or anyone else. And then where do you see your future going? Where's this going to go for you? So I find answers to those pointed questions. So that starts the ball rolling. And then when you decide, after I've showed you that your profile probably is not as good as it could be, then you decide maybe we should improve upon this, because this is my presence, by the way. Yeah, I know you did your website, but guess what? It doesn't work. So anyhow, when you decide that, then you fill out a form that essentially tells you exactly what I just got from you, but I want to hear it from you. And then I craft the report. And that report puts in all those pieces that I have crafted, built around what you have said, to make it very clean and concise and attractive so that people will come and talk to you. And then we do the strategy on how to get to the alliances. So once you've put in coaches in Arizona and gotten 21,000 people, how do you relate? So what? I got them. What are they going to do? Jump up and down? No, they're not going to jump up and down. And even Connect's not going to make it. So what? So I Connect. Big deal. I did that for a year and got a problem about 6,000 people until I realized you got to do more than that. You can't just say Connect because it's out in Ethernet now. What was the purpose of that? So now I really kind of field them. I get kind of flippant about it, actually. Well, do you need more referrals? I got all kinds of resources. You want to talk about it? It's very simple. And they go, maybe so. So anyhow, you're going to find out about those alliances. You're going to look at their LinkedIn. Hopefully they have something there. If they don't, send them to me. But if they, you look at their LinkedIn and then you look at their web page, you do all of this little effort, but it is intentional networking.
Intentional networking. I'm going to write that down. Intentional networking. Isn't that interesting? Because that's a universal word, intention. If we set the intention, then the speech and the body move into the same direction to achieve the wish. And the wish at the end of the day is to make more profit. I mean, that's what we want. That's the end result. And it takes time, takes effort, and it takes mutuality to really benefit others, because that's the end result, right? That's the outcome. I wanted to let the world know too that in working with you, you really helped me personally to see my profile in a very different light. So like, I never thought of to mention, the creator of my online program, Rapid Tax Savings Formula. You brought out, my show here, Naked Tax Talk, and you kind of really weaved everything that we talked about, and you put this into a format that you're absolutely right, what you said, which was the eyes quickly gazed and went, boom, this is what he does. This is who he serves: women entrepreneurs, coaches, mind, heart centered, et cetera, who are his alliances, financial advisors, payroll representatives, and then the benefit, the outcome. And it was so well done that I was so excited that I turned around and first of all, I updated the LinkedIn profile. And then I turned around and I went to my Facebook business page and I also updated that as well. So I saw it being cross-platform for me.
Sure.
Sure. But you completely changed the way I thought about who I am. And what I also really liked is that you also put it in the third person, which is interesting. So for all those who go back to English, I was an English teacher, so we all remember, right? The three types of way you write: first person, second, or third. And what's fascinating is that I didn't think about this, but in my course, Rapid Tax Savings Formula, I teach women entrepreneurs how to separate themselves from their business, right? Because your business is not you and you're not your business. So if I'm able to write about my business in the third person, I'm able to begin the separation process, right? It's a great, powerful technique, and I really freaking like it. So with that, we've got about 15 more minutes, and I know that you've got a couple of tax questions you'd like for me to answer for you today. So shoot at me.
Okay, so what are 4 ways that... Didn't take good enough notes. What are 4 ways that you can use marketing for tax write-offs? And the other one, internationally, what action internationally? Because I do a lot of work internationally. Should I know about tax benefits doing an international, and can that be included in anything?
I like that. Okay, so we'll address the marketing one fast. So the marketing one, 4 ways in which we can use marketing in our businesses. Well, in my book, again, the ABCs of Deductions, Entrepreneur's Guide to Tax Write-Offs, under the letter A for advertising, I actually list out all the ways in which we can use advertising. So
Okay.
it's like could be networking, like exact what we're familiar with, right? Attending BNI, eWomen, these other groups, Meetup.org, right? And what's beautiful about that is we can actually tie in networking to international travel.
Right.
So
Okay.
we talked about the word intention earlier. So if I set the word intentionally, if I intentionally say, you know what, I'm going to go to France. I'm a big Francophile. So I go to France quite often. And I purposefully know that there are BNI chapters in France. So when I go, I am going to go and attend a BNI chapter meeting in France, right? And because Uncle Sam says, well, you're going there for business, because that's the intention is to gain international clients, right? So now all of a sudden, a portion of my trip is going to become tax deductible to my business. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so that's really cool. So that's how we can tie in a live in-person networking event. Another benefit that you get is theoretically, if let's say you moved out of the United States and or even if you're a U.S. citizen here, but you earn income in another country, you could potentially exempt yourself from being taxed on that international revenue so long as both countries have a tax treaty. And they basically say to each other in the tax treaties, they'll say something like, a common one would be like Canada. So Canada would say, if you pay taxes here in Canada, the United States is still going to have you report the income, but you're going to say to Uncle Sam, but I paid Canada my fair share of taxes because that's where I earned the money. And Uncle Sam's going to say, no problem, Jackie. In that case, we're going to credit you what you've paid in taxes in the other country because that's the agreement they have together. So sometimes it takes a lot of proactive tax planning in that case, where we have to actually look at the treaties and we have to look at, the sources of income based on the treaties. And then does it make sense to claim the income and pay the taxes in those countries based on the treaties? So it's kind of very fascinating. But for me, the easy one is, how do I translate what I do in business and turn it into an international traveling event? So if I'm going to travel. So for example, do you do your own marketing by any chance? A little bit, I'd imagine. I think a lot of us do. And even if we're not, this is something we should consider. So this is what I also teach my clients in Rapid Tax Savings Formula, is how to change our mindset from being the employee, right? The employee gets sent to France to do the job, right? That's what the employee does. And the employee is there just to do the job. But an entrepreneur, a CEO, is going to think differently. They're going to think, I'm going to go to Europe, to France in this case, and I'm going to reach out to my marketing team and I'm going to ask them, what types of photographs should I be taking for all of my marketing campaigns, right? My upcoming webinars, my upcoming whatever. And if photography is a hobby that you really like, right? You can now take your camera, wrapped around your neck like a cool tourist that we all know we are. And when we get there, we start taking pictures related to the content we're going to share later. So now we're there on assignment for the purpose of business. So what we have to always remember, hogs get slaughtered, pigs get fed. So if I go to Europe and I write the whole thing off, I'm going to have some problems down the road. But if I go to Europe and I include a few days of business intermingled with that personal after or before, I'm going to be okay.
Nice. That was well put. That was really well put. That was cool. I like that comparison. That's good. Thanks, Jonathan. That was nice.
Absolutely, because that's what I just did. I was in San Antonio, and while I was there, that's exactly what I did. I reached out to my marketing team, Jordan Barak. I reached out to him and I said, Jordan, what do I need to take pictures of while I'm here for, my welcome letters and my infomercials and my all that other fun stuff, right? Like, what pictures should I be taking? And of course, he said, because we have an upcoming Rapid Tax Savings Formula course that starts on September 2nd, he said, we need pictures that show boom, 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 transformation,
Yeah.
changing, right? And so all
Yeah.
of a sudden, I'm looking around everywhere going, where can I take a picture of to capture that moment? And if I want to get real crazy, I could, in theory, set up another business that's a photography business that then sells the images back to my other company to be used in that marketing material. So earlier, you said this about networking. You said, you know what? We have the person that supplies the final product, but along the line, he's got to go to the purchaser, the shippers, the wrappers, all these companies offering all these different services. Sometimes you could be the owner of all of it, and we're shifting the income and the expenses between all of the businesses to accomplish the same outcome. So, you know who's notorious for this particular method? McDonald's.
Oh, really?
Yep. So, McDonald's basically created a holding company that buys the land and then basically created a construction company that constructs the buildings and then turns around and created a management company that then pays rent to the landlords of the holding company. The distribution of the French fries and the hamburger and all that stuff, that's all owned by McDonald's. They just form a distribution company. The truckers to drive it from point A to point B, they're a whole separate company, still owned by McDonald's. Wow. So everything can be owned. This is the power of separation of self. When we see that we are not our business, we're capable of making a lot of businesses. And I like to say a lot of children, because like a parent that takes care of their children, that's going to be you. That's the CEO. The CEO is the person that says, how do I keep all of the money in the family? And Uncle Sam likes that. And he allows us to take deductions and shift the income and stuff in order to facilitate that. Now, what he doesn't like are cheaters. So he doesn't like for people to purposefully create businesses with the attempt to avoid tax. And that's different. So, for example, a lot of people will say to me, how about I buy a house and I rent it to myself? That's great. Totally. Why not? Sure. But guess what Uncle Sam's going to say to you? If you have a loss and you are personally connected, you can't use that loss to offset your other sources of active income, because he knows that you're trying to take advantage of perfectly good legal structure, but he also knows that you're trying to take advantage of it. Wow. And so there are stop gaps. But Jackie, you and me, I could be like, I need another company that writes profiles all day long. You and I could form a business, and then you and I charge JB Financial, charges jonathanbengal.com to produce those services. And cool. We still benefit.
That's good. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Thank you. That's all good stuff. Guys, I think he knows what he's talking about. It's very convincing, don't you think?
Yeah, I like to think it is. So with that, Jackie, how you left your email address? By the way, I freaking like this because I started doing it too. Jackie has left her email address right there, right on her name, this whole entire time. Jackie Zacchioli, right?
Well, it's kind of close.
At gmail.com. You want to get a hold of her? I can promise you guys this right now. Working with Jackie really, truly transformed my profile, my online presence, and it really gave me a personal boost, not only to myself, but to my business, and ultimately to my money. Jackie, are there any final words of wisdom you'd like to share today?
I always like to end with one of them that's my favorite: to be open to wonder rather than closed by belief.
I love that. And with
that's
that,
Gary Spence, by the way. I have to give credit to Gary Spence. He did that.
There we go. And always remember why we became an entrepreneur. It's all for mucho, mucho, mucho dinero. I'm Jonathan Bengal, and until the next time I see you, May you all have an amazing evening. And thank you, Jackie, so much for being a guest here on my show on Naked Tax Talk. And may you be happy. May you be free from suffering. And may you never be separated from your happiness.
Thank you, Jonathan, very much. I appreciate it.
Until next time.